Hello, hello. So we are excited to kick off. I've got something going on here. So I'm excited to kick off our sort of new series with a new person joining us together, and we decided to name this thing as Tips and Tricks Tuesday. Thought Triple T might kind of suit the overall name scheme. We'll see what sticks better. But we have Mackenzie with us today. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, and yeah, we want to have some fun Tuesday evenings time for those of you who watch live, or perhaps morning or afternoon, whomever watches in recording, but decide to have this sort of fun 1 hour session, approximately 1 hour session of fun topics. And the first topic we chose to be a tips and tricks for SketchUp because I suppose that's the area that I can kind of cover the most easiest way possible. So but we plan to just kind of cover lots of different things, anything about AEC, architecture, engineering, construction, design, interior design, perhaps graphic design, rendering, softwares, tech, and fun things in life. We will share. And if there's anything exciting, news things, then we want to discuss. So join us for conversation by joining live, leaving chats, as well as after the fact, you can leave comments to see, um, and we will respond to those comments as well. So just join along the show. There'll be lots of hidden gems along the way, and hopefully it'll be entertaining for you guys as well as being useful. And yeah, so I'm somewhat, not too much, a bit nervous since I haven't done streaming in a while. So hopefully everything is being heard and also recording properly, but we'll see after the fact. So um, you've been waiting for a bit, Mackenzie. So why don't you just kind of kick off and introduce yourself to the crowd?
Yeah, I'm also a bit nervous. This is my first time, so we're gonna just bear with me. But my name's Mackenzie. I'm from Oklahoma. I am a project coordinator at an architectural firm, and I work mainly in retail and get to do a whole lot of CD sets, and I absolutely adore it. It is very fun. I think that it's something that I've realized throughout my career that I really like whenever I get to do detail work and kind of work within those little things of going from the big picture to the small picture within the CD set. So I'm pretty happy right now with that. Joseph and I know each other because of my first job. He was my coworker, and then my boss, and then my coworker. And so we've gotten to know each other quite well. And he taught me everything I knew about SketchUp and haven't gotten to utilize it as much at this current job, but still love it. Still would prefer to use it a whole lot more. And so I'm excited about even just going back over these, even just for myself, because I think SketchUp's definitely somewhere that I enjoy getting to design, even just like my home, and kind of jumping in even on their online platform and just get to play a whole lot more rather than get into the bigger structured programs where you don't have as much creative freedom. So, yeah, but that's a
Right.
little bit about me.
And what's your current software that you use more often?
hmm I strictly use Revit um, and love it. Absolutely adore it. Very, very organized. And I think that it is something that the more I get into it, the more I realize like how many capabilities it has, which is awesome. It is one of those though that as long as you have the design, then it's a phenomenal program. I think getting colors and getting all those things are sometimes harder to visualize immediately within Revit. So yeah.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we can absolutely get in more depth about
Yeah.
different type of softwares. I'm pretty sure there's going to be tips and tricks for Revit as
Yeah.
well later on. That
Be
so
awesome.
for those of you who's expecting that, that is absolutely coming. We just decided to do SketchUp a little bit because
Mm-hmm.
from what I understand is that Mackenzie hasn't touched SketchUp in a while, or at least not hasn't designed in SketchUp for
Mm-hmm.
a while. So thought I will just kind of refresh her memories or some of her experience a bit, as well as refreshing some of you and myself as well. So decide to just pick this one as a first topic, but I foresee lots of different type of tips and tricks later
Yeah.
on for rendering, perhaps. Some of the things that we discussed before was like it could be something about tech or something that
Mm-hmm.
you know in life that are that you have as
Uh,
a tips and tricks. I
yeah.
would be interested in hearing as well. So
Mm-hmm.
if you guys have any topic suggestion or some things that you want to hear from us, then please leave them in chat or comments so that we are aware and so that we can consider those things in the near future. So, question to you is how long have we known each other for, actually?
Oh, good Lord. Um, 2018. What's
2018?
math?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So 6+ years.
Yeah. That's insane.
Yeah, it's been a while, right?
Mm-hmm. We made it through COVID.
Yeah, we made through COVID, and we are coworkers after two different companies, and
Mm-hmm. I know.
yeah, yeah, which is kind of silly. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, it's not often that I get to speak to a coworker in sort of public setup like this. So it's
Yeah.
quite exciting, and you probably know a bit more about my day to day than anybody else
Who
because
Joseph
yeah,
is.
yeah, like there's a bit of an exposure
Yeah.
of
I have
mine
all the
that's
secrets.
I'm not as comfortable, but yeah.
Uh-huh.
So why don't you also tell us a little more about your professional experience and also some of the studies that you've done. Obviously, I know some, but I wanted you to say it than me. So, what kind of studies have you done?
So I went to school at Colorado State,
Mm-hmm.
and I studied interior architecture. Uh, it was perfect in every way, shape, or form. There's nothing wrong with being in the mountains and learning about design. And then I did a semester abroad in Copenhagen and got to experience a whole lot more of really sustainable design out there and the perfected chair, really and truly. I think that was another aspect of being out there, was learning about furniture design that was really fun and really cool, and an area that I didn't think about until I visited. And that's such an expertise that Denmark has, is furniture design. So that's that's virtually all of my studies. Right now, I'm aiming. We'll see if it ever happens, but I'm aiming for the NCIDQ, uh,
Which is
which I would love to tell you all of the actual
acronym?
letters,
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
is the interior design licensure. So I can stamp as an interior designer. And it means that I can say I am technically an interior designer, like someone being able to say that they're an architect, instead of just like an interior decorator or something like that. But yeah, it is 3 tests, and the passing rate is low, and the questions are subjective, and it's a lot of fun, but it'll be
You
good.
guys have half of the tests
We have
that.
half the tests, but we can only take them in April or October. So I
Oh,
have this huge month period where it's like twiddling my thumbs to study again.
hmm.
So I
That
can't
I did
retake
not
it right
know.
away.
I see.
Yeah,
I see. Oh, goodness.
so frustrating.
I
But
I had actually, sorry, I had two
mhm,
questions whilst
yes,
you were explaining. One
yeah.
is, what's the difference between interior design and interior architecture?
So what I was taught in school, interior design, you are obviously like studying the interiors and everything like that. Interior architecture, you're learning a lot more about the construction and the construction materials. So you are better qualified for working, and this is so subjective, so please take me with a grain of salt. But like, I believe that interior architecture prepares you a whole lot more for working with architects and understanding what their concerns will be because you're gathering more information along the lines of like how things actually are going to be built and putting that into consideration instead of sitting there and saying, okay, like I want to design this entire place and have so much fun. And I forgot that there's like the reality of like, here is how this thing works. That is not to say that all interior designers who didn't get an interior architecture degree don't know that stuff, because I think that's just something that you learn along the way. It's just interior architecture in school, I think, immediately starts to try to teach you that.
I see. And NCIDQ covers both?
Yeah, yeah. Because it goes over all code things.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
obviously life safety, ADA, and then
Which is very, very exciting. And I had questions from you about that, which was exciting. Like, finally, something that I learned on my days pays
yeah,
off, and I can tell you about
yeah,
it.
honestly. And then they have some things that go with electrical because of lighting selections and stuff like that. Um, and I'm just at the beginning of these tests, so my
Mm-hmm.
studies are more of a broad right now for the fundamentals exam. But it's a lot of information, and I can only imagine what the architecture one is because I'm sitting here just like, oh my goodness gracious, it's
Right,
a lot
right.
to remember.
Yeah, I mean, so actually, there's a second question I wanted to ask you.
Mhm.
Was, I guess it kind of goes back a little bit. Why did you decide to do interior architecture?
I think you know this story, but I originally started off wanting to be a veterinarian. So I studied microbiology for 3 years, got through organic chemistry, and after I finished that, mind you, I wanted to say I'm really proud of myself. I got an A,
Great job.
very proud. Um, but I finished that and I just processed that like this was not the path. I was dreaming about whenever I retired, I would become a art teacher, and I just sat there one day and was like, why would I retire and do the thing that I want to do? And so I started looking at creative jobs and trying to understand like what actually sounded like me and what I could be successful at and be passionate about.
Hmm.
And I came across interior design, and interior architecture just happened to be the program at CSU. Um, and so I took a big leap of faith my junior year of college and switched. And it was the best decision I've ever made, really and truly. Uh, I've been very, very happy ever since.
Great.
Hmm.
Yeah. Perhaps it's completely different path from
It's a 180.
what you have initially planned, but
Yeah, there were no crossover classes,
yeah,
so it's not like I got to cut off any years.
yeah, and
Hmm.
but you stuck along, and you've been doing that and getting closer to architectural side for
Hmm.
quite some time now. So
Yeah,
doing lots of construction drawings nowadays, and taking care of all the code related things, which is
yeah.
always a lot of fun, right?
You learn a lot. You learn a lot. You learn I'm trying to say this in the best way possible, but you learn how picky officials can be out of safety reasons.
Yes.
Good
Good.
reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And you sit there and it's like, really?
Mm-hmm. But sometimes because you have to demonstrate lots of information on
Hmm.
just mere piece of drawing,
Hmm.
it is really difficult to tell what your intentions are unless you're really intentional with the way you draw things. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of times the challenges come that way, and that's why I'm so big on visuals and the continued piece of mine is conceptual rendering, so that you're not just looking at mere piece of drawing, you're looking at
Hmm.
things in a bit more visualistic way so that it sells the story better or explains your
Yeah.
design better. But yeah, I think whenever you look at a sheet of plan and try to describe what this space is, then they're going to have lots of questions, and there's no other ways around it,
Hmm.
unfortunately. And
Yeah.
as architects or architectural designer or interior architects,
Hmm.
we have to be diligent about being intentional in our drawings and a piece of word that we put down on the drawing, that sort of thing.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely think that something you taught me, and I brag about this all the time, but is the importance of organization on your sheet. And I still will have moments where, someone will comment and be like, oh, like, wouldn't it look better for this to be over here, look like this? And I'm like, that's not what Joseph taught me. No, that won't look better. What do you mean? But it is funny because I do like knowing that my sheets are organized in such a structured way, and I have a way of doing things, even my folder organization, like that intentionality, gets to be carried out so that you can be more organized and get to see more of the drawing without it feeling cluttered.
Yep. Yep.
Hmm.
Which is often challenging to do between all
Hmm.
the deadlines and coordination that you have to do.
Yeah.
Anyways, we are 17 minutes into the session, and I think I dragged out the rest of the conversation a bit too long. But yeah, so the meat of today's show is supposed to be SketchUp tips and tricks. So I understand you haven't touched SketchUp for quite some time now.
Hmm.
When was the last time you actually like designed something in SketchUp?
My goodness.
I should have prepared you for some of these questions. Sorry.
That's okay. No, that's okay. I really think that the last time I did an actual design was at our previous job,
Mm-hmm.
which would be right before COVID.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I've touched SketchUp, since then, with the current job, but
Viewing only, right?
viewing only, and I think maybe designed like little tiny things for myself in SketchUp. But like I'm gonna say it's maybe like a wall with all of my art pieces, trying to like lay it out and see how it would look actually. So not too much.
Yep. So
Hmm.
hopefully, through today, we can just kind of refresh your memories a
Yes,
little
please.
bit. Hopefully, people find this somewhat more useful in terms of what information that I can share. By the way, I have almost endless list of SketchUp tips and tricks. I actually did a session in 3D Basecamp, which is um, basically the SketchUp's user conference back in Vegas last year, end of last year, and I knew this was gonna be like a marathon, and I just had endless slides that are made, and I I give with the given time, I was like, well, I'm gonna see how much I can get through of these lists, and you know, whatever that I can actually fit through the time, You
Mm-hmm.
guys get to learn. But also, there's other live session that I've done in different podcasts that I covered most of what I had at the times. It was
Yeah.
like 2 hour session, and I just gone through lots of different things. So be sure to check that out if you're just dying to see lots more tips and tricks. But I also wanted to just kind of kick it off in more basic forms to start off, and we'll just have this thing just last for maybe weeks or much longer as I have more things on the list. Start
Mm-hmm.
from the basic and go to more intermediate to more advanced type of things later on. So I figured it'll be suitable to kind of cover the most basics on today's session. Also to just kind of ease you back into some of those
100%.
realms. So
Yeah.
first thing that I do want to mention is the shortcuts. So what you need to do is go to Window and then Preferences, and here you'll meet some of these things that show up on your left. And what you have here is shortcuts. And these are the shortcuts that are available to you. And in order to change a shortcut, for example, if I want to change a key to change the field of view, then I can just hit a key in here. So for example, I can do Control F maybe, and then I hit this plus button over here. And now Control F has been designated for field of view option. Although that's not what I want to have, so I'm just going to
Mm-hmm.
delete that away. So you can search certain things, just like hide. Some of this shortcut is my one of my custom shortcuts. So I have series of custom shortcuts. I do have a list saved and shared somewhere. I'll make sure to put that link in the description of this session so that you guys could also download some of my custom shortcuts that I do assign. Hide is one of them, and hide I do use Shift H, and unhide all is Shift U. So it's sort of my muscle memory. If I hide something, I can do Shift U to unhide all. And this is useful when you're trying to look into a building later on, and I will demonstrate that as I get through some of these tips and tricks. But those are custom shortcuts that I have assigned. And once you assign some of these shortcuts, you want to save them elsewhere so that you can import them later on, whether you change your machine or you upgrade your SketchUp or just lost your laptop, unfortunately. You want to be able to retrieve it. So save that copy of all the shortcuts. And you can do that by exporting it and also importing it from wherever you have saved. I typically just save to my cloud account so that I can just bring it into either the laptop or different type of computer that I have is what I typically utilize. So those are two examples of shortcuts that I have, and that's how I export and import out a shortcut. Um, so next one I have on the dock is also actually, let's see if this will. So this used to be a little cheat sheet that was
I
provided.
remember
Yeah,
this.
this was like the Google days. You can see
Yeah.
there it says Google SketchUp. So when
That's
SketchUp
funny.
was with Google, these quick reference card was shipped with the software, so you were able to see those. But these are default shortcuts. So at the very minimum, you want to use these shortcuts.
Mhm.
Have them all as your muscle memory and utilize them. But develop your own system of shortcuts for yourselves as well. Do come up with custom shortcuts. Typically, if it is more of an advanced feature, I add control to it so that it just adds a bit more advanced feature to some of the default shortcuts, for example. And then shift and then a key if it is involving like some sort of extension on top.
Yeah. This is a good throwback.
Yes.
I forgot about this.
Yeah, but at least this one has a bit more visual
Yeah.
note to it. Although all the
Mm-hmm.
icons now look different, so you may have a bit harder time matching. I don't know why nobody actually develops one of these anymore.
It should be.
Yeah,
It's
there
such a
should
good
be.
visual.
Yeah, there should be one, and also there should be one for Mac as well. This one
Mm-hmm.
is Windows because I
Mm-hmm.
use on Windows, but having a reference card would be
Mm-hmm.
good. Maybe I spend some time in making it more current icon list later on, but this is a good one to look at. And some of the things that you should definitely utilize of is to use middle mouse button, and having a mouse with a scroll wheel is absolutely the must. And
Mm-hmm.
you use that to orbit. And actually, that brings another point that I would like to make. I always replace O for orbit, with offset. There
Okay.
isn't a shortcut for offset, or sorry, here it is assigned as F, which I think it's a bit odd. So I change offset to O, because orbit, I'm going to always have the middle mouse button. So that's sort of a custom shortcut that I assign on top of the default shortcut. And holding down Shift key and then orbit, which allows you to pan. A lot of people also call it the hand tool, but you hold down the screen and then move over. Pan is also Shift and orbit. And so that is definitely something that you want to get down to your muscle memory. And the next thing I want to mention is to set up some of the views for yourselves. But before that, I also wanted to highlight some of the template setup that I have. So this is my template. When you start SketchUp, you often see a person standing here, and that is intentional. That's how SketchUp people likes to kind of showcase some of a tribute to some folks, and they have the name of that person. At one point in time, there was a guy named Sang, and he kind of looked like me, so I've been called the SketchUp guy for a few times.
Oh,
I think he was like in version 8 or something like that. But
I
yeah,
would have
it's
loved that.
every year they get a different person and they update it. But
Mm-hmm.
I stick with my own template here. Is you
Mm-hmm.
can see that this was issued on 2024. That's when I kind of updated this template. But I haven't really changed anything. I just template issue date is what I changed on. But here I highlight two things. One is the front face and the back face. The back face will play very much into your model organization and also in rendering,
Mm-hmm.
understanding what your back faces are or where those things are visible is very, very important. Or let's say you want to make sure they're not shown in your model. You always want to make sure that your models are oriented properly so that you don't have back face issues, because some of the renders do not render the back faces, and so some of the materiality doesn't show correctly if you don't have that set up correctly. So that's why I highlight backface by having a bit more vibrant color. By default, SketchUp has very grayish blue, which is often hard to tell if it is backface or not. It kind of looks closer to what that top side is looking like. Because of the lighting, it always changed the shade of color. Therefore, sometimes it's hard to tell what color it is unless it is very vibrant. So I tend to do a bit more blue, just so that I can see. Blue happens to be my favorite color. You can just change it to a different color if you like. So what you do is you go to the styles, go to edit, and then the second box, if you click on that, that front color versus back color will show up. Let me collapse this so you can see it a little better. And then you can just click on this thing, and then this dialog will show up. Often you just have it as a color wheel. You can choose something if that you like. I like having a bit more control with these numbers so that I can remember numbers later on. But you can see I can change to a certain color, say um, some vibrant green, and then okay that. So the back face shows up as a green. And then for you to save this, so what I did was I did 1 foot by 1 foot cube so that I have some sense of scale because when I load it up and I may be drawing something, hey, I'm gonna draw a house, and let's say I just draw a eave, sorry, the gable, but truly this is not a scale of a house because if that's just
Yeah.
yeah 12 inches, then
Hmm.
yeah, that's not going to be really, but it
Yeah.
gives me the sense of scale once I see this
Hmm.
because I understand how large this thing is. So having a bit of sense of scale is definitely helpful when you're drawing a house. You want to draw at this kind of scale.
Yeah.
So that's helpful to have like a little cube. Before I start drawing anything, honestly, I just delete it and then start drawing something. And it's just a one thing. I made it into a one thing so that I can easily delete them, and rather than trying to click on multiple things and that sort of stuff. So that's what I did, and I just assigned some of text in here just so that I have back color, front color. For
Hmm.
some folks who hasn't seen this template, I intended this to be used by other folks as well. And I do file, and then there is a something that nobody clicks on, which is save
Nope.
as template. Yeah,
I literally,
yeah,
you pulled it up and it was like, yep, that makes sense. It is
yeah.
there. I just
Yep,
never touched
yep.
it.
So you go there and then save as template, and this basically saves it into your folder system. It doesn't ask you for file path or anything like that. It just saves into somewhere on the system so that it can be recalled later on. So
Okay.
here I often just say my name just so that I can recognize it later on. You can put description if you'd like. I often skip that part. And I set that as a default template, save that, and now that's gonna come on as I open up my SketchUp. So when I start a new file, then it is gonna show up.
I have a question.
Sure.
So in Revit, whenever you open up a new file, you can kind of select from multiple templates.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have that same capability in this where you can say like, oh, I want to do a different template for this project?
Yes. So there is a welcome screen in as you start SketchUp, and
Hmm.
you can turn that off. And I am forgetting where the welcome screen comes on. Welcome to SketchUp. There you go. So this shows up as you open up.
Yes.
Yeah, and so
Thank
there
you.
are some templates that are listed here, and obviously you can choose more template and choose from some of these things. But this is the one that is
Perfect.
designated. That's the folder system that I have
Yep.
unknowingly saved to. But
Hmm.
there are the ones that are assigned. So I had one as a JK. This is the one that I just saved. And those will be basically presented to you as you either the recent file that you touched on versus some of the default templates that are available to you. I guess when you start off with 2024 version of SketchUp, this is how it's going to show up. Couple things that I don't like about this specific template, although yeah, it's kind of traditional that
Hmm.
you have a person. This person's
Hmm.
name is Teddy. So hi Teddy. One other thing that I don't like about it is the fact that I see a horizontal line there,
Like
horizon.
the horizon. Hmm.
Yeah, having a horizon is not always nice, especially in some of the setup of your views, especially like when you're trying to deal with interior view and you have a horizon in the back, it's a little confusing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I don't mind having the sky as much, although too blue can be somewhat distracting. So I like toning that down as well. I can do sky, but perhaps tone it down just so slightly so give it a little sense
Very
that
good.
it is a sky, but not necessarily like blue, 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 right? So that's what you can do. And again, what I've done was to change the back face so that that's shown as a very, very vibrant color.
Yeah.
And you can't see it because all of these are front face, and you just have to go ahead and reverse it to expose the backside of the dark
Mhm.
side of them. And that's what you have to do in order to do that. And like I said, the thing that I don't like about is inside of the model, because this person actually is comprised of multiple colors on them, like
Yeah.
such as the book. And you can see actually there is a bit of a color difference from
Yes.
the bottom and the top. And if I
Yeah.
sample it, you see that the color actually changes. So there's a one color here, different color there, different color there, different color there. So because of this person, actually, because of Teddy, unfortunately,
Mhm.
we have this many colors already in the model, and that's why I don't like having so many different color. You often get a model from somebody, and you often have like a wrong color in them, and you look at the name of this color. And then it turns out to be teddy hair light, and it's like, no, that's not what I meant to be. And it needs to be brick 01 or something like that, that is more descriptive, not teddy's hair, teddy's dress, or something like that. So
I hear
that's
you.
that's why I tend to delete them and purge the material so that those materials are not shown in there. I did that purge right there. That's part of the tips and tricks, which I'll cover later on. But also, even if you have deleted a component, because right now Teddy is a component, that component that was used in your model is still in your model so that you can recall them later on. So I have deleted it. But if I go to components dialog, there's Teddy again, and it actually always takes up that amount of storage to your file that you save. Teddy is not heavy. I don't mean that figuratively, but uh, is a light component. But if you have a heavy component into your template, that means your template is that much bigger. And same goes to your general file management. If your component was heavier, it means your model is going to be that much heavier, even if you're not actually using the component inside of your model. So having to delete them every now and then. So if you have delete them, then you want to make sure you go ahead and actually delete it off of your model so that it is no longer taking up that size off of your file. Same thing for all the materials. And there's ways to do that. One of the way is go to window, model info, and then statistics, and then you can just hit purge unused, and it'll purge all the things that are not being used. But there are some extensions that's gonna do things a bit a bit easier, and that's what I have used. We have a comment from Mike Brightman. Plan, view, feet and inches all day. Yeah, having feet and inches. Yeah, I showed feet there just because it was just easier unit to have. But yeah, feet and inches is definitely needed for all of your drawings. Yeah, that's Mike there. He's another very famous SketchUp guy out there. Shout out to him. Um, yeah, so that's what I tend to do. And again, if we go back to styles, we want to remove the background. So I just make the background to white. There you go. So that's how I would kind of go about making my own template there. Um, let's look at some of the view setups here. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up one example file. Um, Whilst that, did you have any further questions?
No, it's kind of all just flooding back to me. This is
I
really
bet.
awesome, honestly. It makes me miss working in SketchUp so much because again, it's so much fun to be in this program, and that is not me just trying to sell it. Like it actually is really fun.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's a lot of fun. So
Hmm.
yeah, sometimes I want to spend a bit more time than what I currently spend on time. It's it's more visually appealing, so
It is. It's also
yeah.
user friendly. Like the more you're throwing all these little tips out there, I'm like, oh yes, of course. Like that is a very easy, accessible spot to find that.
Hmm. So Antonia Garcia asks, "What program is this?" This is SketchUp, and SketchUp's been a great 3D modeling tool. It's a surface modeling tool we primarily use for, or I primarily use for architecture, but folks like you, Mackenzie, could use for interior design and interior
Hmm.
architecture. I do see a lot of woodworkers using SketchUp as well. Film design and videography when they design their own sets and stages. They also do that. I've seen a lot of usage of SketchUp in the broadcasting and film planning as well. So it is used in multiple ways. I mean, I use it for my home planning
Yes.
when I was moving. So you can certainly use that. My daughter started using it and modeling her own room. I just
Oh,
wanted to kind of teach her a bit young, so she
that's so fun.
yeah, so she started doing that too, and it is very friendly in terms of user interface. So it is much easier to pick up than I would say a lot of other 3D modeling tools, and they are very well oriented for all the educational versions and some of the younger folks who's getting into this 3D modeling realm. So I would definitely recommend having, especially even for younger folks, to be learning this tool.
Hmm.
I think it gives you an understanding of how to manipulate geometry or a shape in 3D space. It gives a bit deeper understanding of space and designs, unlike other tools like such as like just drawing with your hand on piece of paper. So I value that aspect quite a lot. Yeah, so I open up this example because I just have every bit of things in here. But here is my scene setup system. So the way I set this up is first one is what I call model. And this is what I will just kind of, I may be like deep inside something and I may be doing little tiny designs in here and I may be just too dialed in. And for me to back out, I have to scroll quite a lot. So what I do is I just click on model and it'll just pop me back out onto more overall view so that it's easier. There is a shortcut for zoom extent, which is Shift Z. So if you were to have like a view and then zoom extent, which is Shift Z, and it'll actually even show the things that I didn't intend to show, but it'll do the zoom out to whatever the extent of the model. So if you had it view like this, zoom extent, the orientation is the same. It's just that it fits all the model into the scene or into the view is basically what zoom extent means. And that's what it will do. You can absolutely use that, but sometimes you may have things hidden. Like let's say I've hidden some of these ground planes and trees, and if I do zoom extent, it's not gonna get that back up. Whereas if I were to hit model, because it actually had saved that state, it is going to bring all of those back up again. So that's typically how I control and come back to my favorite modeling spot. You may or may not turn on certain type of geometry, such as CAD plan that you referenced of some of those other assets that you just having as a reference, whether to have that on or not. You can control that individually, and that layer or tags control is available. I think you missed the this transition into tags. So Mackenzie, you will know them as a layers.
Uh,
Layers do not exist in SketchUp anymore,
oh,
and
okay.
it is called tags. And
Okay.
there was like a 1 year of everybody calling this wrong because they're just so used to calling in layers.
Yes.
Um, layers is controversial because there's a little bit of reasoning behind, although I don't think it's like a perfect explanation, but just to kind of have people understand this realm of the transition from layers to tags. I still have a hard time explaining it, but let me attempt it. So the thought is, if it's a layer, it's gotta be a layer in terms of the top layer is shown to you first, which is how Adobe Photoshop works. If you think of it, once you have the layer system, which means you turn off the top layer, then the second layer will be visible, but that's not really the way that layer behaves in SketchUp. So I think tags or category was more suitable term for it. Although, if you think of AutoCAD, layers are not really this type of layer system. It just is a category or tag system, and
Mm-hmm.
it's been there for years. And everybody in the industry just kind of understand layer as more of a category and tags type of thing than the layer. But they made this transition when tags were kind of popular, trendy term, and they made this transition into. So you'll still hear people say layers, or some of the extensions still use the word layers. So just understand that as interchangeably. And yeah, you don't have a layers tab anymore. It's all tags.
That's good to know
Yeah,
because
whether
that
it is
was something.
fortunate or unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, hey, as long as it's still available, because I remember, I would design a ton of components and take them from this into Revit, and the layers back then were my saving grace to be able to dissect it in Revit, after building it in SketchUp.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
And
mhm.
even Mike Brightman is also saying, yeah, there will always be layers to me, like CAD. Yeah. So yeah,
Exactly.
a lot of people take it to their heart.
Yeah. Die hard layers fan.
Yes. Maybe we should make like a T-shirt. It's like
Yeah. Yeah,
layers,
honestly. Layers for days.
yeah, layers for days. Yes, I like that. Yeah, so that's what they are. But for example, if I were to use this purging extension that I've already used several times now, here it says purge layers.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the legacy terms that are there. But
Mm.
yeah, it's we always just laugh whenever we discuss about tags.
Uh-huh.
But certain tags can be turned off depending on what you want to show it within your view, and then you can save the state of that. So, for example, if I have model, but in my model view, if I always want to turn off trees just to get them out of my
Hmm.
way, then I can just turn off the tree tags and then right click on the scene and then update. Once I update
I see.
that, it means I could be somewhere else and then I hit this and then all the trees are not shown,
Hmm.
even if I come back to that specific scene. And
Hmm.
the angle and the state of the scene is saved or updated by default. You can
Hmm.
control that later on. That's more advanced feature of scenes, which is available under scenes tab. But by default, let's say if I rotate it a little bit and then right click and update, that means it is going to come back to that rotated scene rather
Hmm.
than the other one that I had saved. And currently, that is not undoable. I cannot undo what's been updated to the scene, so be careful when you make that kind of change. Now, only way I can go back to my original angle and state of the scene is by only reopening the file that
Yeah,
I have
not
not
saving
saved
over it.
over. Yeah. So
Mhm.
scene's always a little bit controversial in that manner. I guess this is a little bit of tip. It's a caution,
Mhm.
but hopefully SketchUp in near future could have that kind of scene update, undo,
Yeah.
redo, that sort of aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah, currently that action is not undoable. So I just generally have this aerial view typically, and then I update that so that I can always come back to it. And rightfully so, my next series of views will be starting from aerial, just to kind of
Mhm.
give over. And I save the scene so that I can easily explain my model to somebody, and that's why the sequence is kind of saved this way. So first aerial is just a bit more aerial, perhaps
Mhm.
not too zoomed out. It gives you a little bit of a context of the model, and then another
Mhm.
aerial view, maybe different type of view.
Yeah.
So this actually is not something that you're used to, which is ambient occlusion. Do you know what that means, actually?
No,
Not a clue. Yeah.
because it's
I
not sketchy. It's like got some shadows to it.
So if I hadn't told you, I mean, even you don't even know what ambient occlusion means. But if you were to name this visual style, what would you call it? I'm just curious.
I'm trying to remember what Revit has that's similar to this view.
Well, I
um,
can tell you the answer. Revit actually has ambient occlusion as well, and
and it's called that.
it is called that. It is an industry standard term, unfortunately, but
Mhm.
a lot of people don't know what it means. You're
Mhm.
not the only one. Don't be ashamed of
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But that's why like people couldn't come up with better term.
Mhm.
But what is it to you? You can throw out a couple of words if you like. Is it a
So I mean,
sketch mode? Is it a
well, I understand like ambient, like kind of like a little bit more mood thrown into it. Like it's still wireframe looking,
mm-hmm.
sketchy-ish, but adding a little bit more mood, but you're still clear on it just being sketchy. And that's going to be my professional term for right now on that.
sketchy?
But oh my gosh, and you can change the amount of ambience. I don't know, distance.
Yeah. So, well, this is meant to be training
Mhm.
or teaching
Yeah.
session, right? So,
Okay.
ambient occlusion basically means amount of shadow that's casted on
Mhm.
where the two faces meet. And this is actually a very
Okay.
natural
Yeah.
thing.
Mhm.
If you were to see like a corner of a room, or
Mhm.
say it's usually best seen in
I
like
don't know if you can see my corner.
yeah, your corner, or where you see a white wall
Yeah.
meets white ceiling, or two
Yeah.
white walls meet each other. Like
Mhm.
even where this is where the
Yeah.
trim pieces meeting the wall, basically it highlights, or it casts shadow in that area to highlight the edge of a geometry. And we are used to that because it actually
Yeah.
is a natural thing. But when SketchUp happens, when ambient occlusion is not turned on, the surfaces are not really legible because
Mhm.
of that. That is not apparent. Like there's hard outline, but
Yeah.
other than that, there's no clue in there's actually a surface that is meeting
Yeah.
perpendicular. So in order to highlight that, this natural behavior, ambient occlusion is in place here.
Oh, I
as
love it.
as a as a SketchUp thing, you can turn off the edges. Then here you have no clue what you're looking at because all the whites
There's
are
nothing
yeah,
there.
there's nothing there. It's not visible. Whereas ambient occlusion, if you turn it on, then that is now it is alternative outline, if you will. SketchUp always
Mhm.
has been using outline, and which I like
Yeah.
about
I do
SketchUp
too.
because it is
Mhm.
it because it is kind of doing that it kind of was doing that ambient occlusion by default.
Mm-hmm.
It is just hard lines, so it is not.
Mm-hmm.
But people are just kind of trained that way. We're used to seeing the world that way, where
Yeah.
the edge of geometry is highlighted or
Yeah.
casted shadow with. So that is what ambient occlusion is, or
That's awesome,
it's a
honestly.
natural phenomena. It's
Yeah.
just that nobody knows what it means, although they've been staring at all their life. Um, I don't think it works the best in the setup of SketchUp as a critique,
Okay.
but it's more recent feature of theirs, which is available under face styles and under the
Okay.
same setting where I was changing the back color, and you can just dial this back and forth.
I really like it.
Mm, yeah, and this is actually a bug. My cursor is now uh, the
Mm-hmm.
arrow up and down. This
Yep.
happens. I saw a Facebook post recently that somebody highlighting my cursor will not change back from this. So maybe this is this bug in recording. But now my cursor is just forever on this until I restart my SketchUp. Anyways, um, completely off topic. Anyways, yeah, the intensity can be chosen. Ambient occlusion is a new thing. Mike says, agreed, these rendering terms need better customer facing names. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
PBR, ambient
Mm-hmm.
occlusion, some of
Mm-hmm.
these terms, we need the better terms. Like we didn't
Yeah.
use as a SketchUp. And again, I may be speaking to SketchUp teams here. We, we, as a SketchUpper or people who's learning SketchUp, we didn't learn the term extrusion.
Yes.
It was always push pull.
Mm-hmm.
Push pull may sound dumb and it's
Mm-hmm.
just very sketchy, but I think that's the core of SketchUp in my very humble
Mm-hmm.
opinion. So it may not be technically correct, but it explains it. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it needed better name for it. But
Yeah.
yeah, here I said it publicly, calling a bunch of
Opinions
my
made.
SketchUp friends out there. Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, whomever you know what I'm talking about. I had this conversation with you before. Yeah, there are a couple of folks that I spoke to about, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, my same feedback goes there. Yeah, push pull was never an extrusion. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
else calls it Boolean extrusion. Those are terms that other people, other software use. SketchUp
Mm-hmm.
was bold and SketchUpy, and they called it push and pull. And I think, yeah, maybe avoid usage of these ambient occlusion or some of those very technically correct terms.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
so there are some changes recent days in SketchUp that you would have missed, along with
100%.
yeah, these are some new stuff.
It's really exciting, honestly.
It is definitely exciting.
I'm just
Um,
like, this just makes it look so good.
yeah, so it kind of gives different styles now
It does.
because
And
of all of that.
I just picture like all of the things that I could again use that for my current job. Because we'll do like the shadow view in Revit, and sometimes it looks fine, sometimes it isn't enough. Um, I
Yeah.
think that's really nice.
Yep. So they have
Mm-hmm.
different styles now. But this is my sort of still preferred style. Having
Mm-hmm.
a very hard outline. I think it keeps things conceptual and
Yeah,
very legible in a lot of ways. And
agreed.
SketchUp is just great at that. Um, so we're close to the full hour mark. I can certainly get through more, but I wanted to cover lots more in later sessions. So
Mm-hmm.
we intended this to be every Tuesday, And apparently, you and I have alternating availability for the next
We're
next
busy
month or
people.
so. So we're gonna see how it goes. It's meant to be casual. We just wanted to have a bit laid back conversation than this sort of, I don't know, boot camp
Yeah.
style
Yeah.
learning of SketchUp. We just wanted to have good time with other folks listening in, and
Mhm.
hopefully every time you join you learn new things, but also wanted to kind of keep things casual. So next week, what does it look like? You're busy next week,
I'm
so
busy next week.
it'll be the following week of Tuesday. We'll join together
Yep.
to either continue this conversation, or we may just completely pivot from this whole series and do a completely different topic. But if not, we'll just kind of continue SketchUp tips and tricks and continue
Yeah.
discussing about these, other than some other interesting topics that may come along. And then I may go away for several weeks after that.
Hmm.
So just yeah, just keep us. I don't know. I guess we'll try to have the schedule going after some of
Hmm.
these
Yeah. And then we
absences.
can become more normal on our
Yeah, yeah,
schedule.
that's the intention. But we wanted to kind of feel out how it
Yeah.
goes, and I think it went pretty well.
Yeah.
Um, Thanks, Mike, for joining in. Yeah, we wanted to have just kind of lay back conversation. Maybe we can have a drink or something, and just
Hmm. I got my tea.
yeah, you got your tea. I got my water.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, and if you guys have any topic suggestion, I'll welcome any of them. So let us know in comments if you have any topic suggestions or questions. I'll be happy to answer those, or perhaps
Hmm.
dock it into the future conversations. Um, but yeah, if nothing fails, then it will be 2 weeks from now, on
Hmm.
Tuesday, 9 p.m. Central Time, and it will get to enjoy the evening with Mackenzie and I and discuss a few things about AC and SketchUp and some tips and tricks.
Yeah. Pretty excited.
Yeah, well, welcome to the channel and the show, Mackenzie. And
Thanks for having me. This is
yeah,
fun.
yeah, and we'll do more of these,
Hmm.
and we'll see everyone else next time.
Yeah. Have
Yeah,
a good night, everyone.
yeah. Until then, bye.